All right, y'all. Kind of just gonna be speaking into the mic here, but yeah, I thought I'd give you an update just because I haven't talked to a video in a long time. I think the last time I actually spoke into the microphone must have been like 2 years ago when I did that giant, break-in video or whatever. But yeah, I think with this keyboard, it's great. First of all, I've been waiting for it so long, I kind of forgot about it. So when I finally got in the mail, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I do have to build that. I feel like I almost forgot how to build keyboards, but then it came back to me and I just knocked it out in like 1 hour and a half or 2 hours. And it was really relaxing. I remembered why I built keyboards in the first place. When I built this keyboard, I even had to watch an Alceray stream to figure out how to do the chord stuff. But no, yeah, it was all great. And I guess I just want to say thanks everyone for all the support, and so someone to like kind of reflect on what I've done and in the community. Just given like I don't know when I'll make a video again. Like I think I've hit the point in the hobby where I'm happy with what I have. Like I only have left like what I want, and I just follow like my friends in the scene. But in terms of like money, I just can't afford it anymore. And I'm okay with that because all the boards I kept, I'm very happy with and I use regularly. And if you want to know what made the cut, it's obviously this F1 staying. It's my TKL I'm keeping. The 65 I'm keeping is the Hero, of course, my beloved. The 60% I'm keeping is the JW Moment. Nothing has come close to being that for the 60% in my eyes. The 75% I have the 7V. And then the 100% I had the Monsgeek. I ideally want a Fossil. Maybe I'll buy that if it goes on sale. The Fossil TKL and have someone like Milmax, the PCB, and that could be my end game, 100%. But, like that's kind of it. I that's it, I do have the core from Flybeck as well. That's another 65%, but that one lives and dies at work. But most of my coworkers actually quite like it, so it's a perfect work board. But yeah, so those are what have made the cut. What have I learned in terms of switches? Yeah, because I did a giant library, huh? So I did a giant library of switches, and it turns out, like if you do a ton of switches with tons of different manufacturers, but you kind of get onto the game of like, okay, what's the stem material? What's the top housing material? What's the bottom house material? Spring, and it's just really feel as long as there's no ping, because all of them get like lubed and filmed by Roy from CustomKeyboardCo anyway, so like that's not a factor anymore. I have to worry about like, is a spring ping a thing? Well, that's a tongue twister. But no, I learned in if you're new or even if you're old, you probably know this, but if you're new especially, don't get sold snake oil on switches. Like a lot of them are pretty much the same sound. I think I got a comment recently, not like a month ago, that says, hey Johnny, I think everything in this board sounds the same. And I was so horrified hearing that, because I was like, do you really think an MX Black sounds the same as an Alpaca? Like go back and rewatch that video. Like they are worlds apart. And like even if you tested a different plate material, you could hear like the Hero, the design of the board itself is not the problem, right? But anyways, yeah, when it comes to switches, don't fall for like the marketing. I think the biggest difference you'll find is definitely manufacturer. Each manufacturer, it seems like, has their own blend for a plastic. Even if they all say it's nylon, it might be a different blend of nylon. Even though on a chemical level, like nylon is nylon, right? But people blend that with different things and yada yada. I don't want to get into that. But if you're shopping within the same thing, you come into a problem where, again, JWK ran into this, and they're quite guilty, is that they would just recolor the same switch. Gateron Milky Yellows, they might polish the mold and, there's less scratch, but a Milky Yellow at the end of the day is still a Milky Yellow, no matter if it's the cheapest version or the highest end version. Now, I will advocate, for less scratch, hence why, like, I love the Gateron Pro X, I believe. I think that's what they're called. But a Milky Yellow is definitely just a Milky Yellow at the end of the day, in terms of sound, all right? So yeah, that's what I learned about switches. Just know that the biggest differences you'll find is within between manufacturers, and when you shop within like the same manufacturer, that's when it gets kind of nitty gritty, and you'd have to hear it. Like sometimes microphones can exaggerate it, but honestly, in person, it all just like, guys, when I was knocking out like 10 to 12 a day, and I like had to do the same manufacturer over and over, like I don't know, 6 or 7 JWK switches. I know I'm hating on JWK right now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But they just sounded the same. Like there's, even if the materials theoretically read different, they just sounded the same. Now, have I tried the newer ones? I know they've been a lot of like advancements in the past 1 or 2 years with, you know, long pulls. Like HMX was like on the tail end of when I stopped, and I tried them and I was like, yeah, I mean, they're pretty good for long pulls, you know? But at the end of the day, I came back to like the basics, which is like MX Blacks, Nixies was a new one, Gateron Inks, and Milky Yellows. Like I just can't escape the MX Browns. God, I love MX Browns. Don't get me started on that. But at that point, I just knew what I liked, and I liked what worked, you know? I didn't like going and experimenting, and it got to a point where once I got something like this F1, I just want to build it and be done, because I've gotten so busy now, right? I just want it to work the first time. But yeah, that was I went on a tangent there. Sorry. My last thing is probably well, not last thing. Here's plate materials. Okay. Plate materials is probably like one of the coolest things I've seen develop with keyboards, in terms of like, hey, when I started, there was aluminum, polycarbonate, and carbon fiber and brass, and like that's all people had. Some people were trying out POM, and POM was like the hottest thing. We're like inks on POM, which is what we have right here, and it sounds gorgeous. But then, you know, inks on POM on other, you know, boards might not sound as well. I think the F1-8X, I was so like enchanted by the sound of the F1-8X V2 on just the F1-8X with inks on POM. I think it was from Andy Wien, I believe. But anyways, the development and the evolution of plate materials, like we went from PC to POM, and then POM to PP, polypropylene, and polypropylene still by far, well, it's pretty close now, but I think it's by far my comfort material. It's my favorite one, and I always get a PP plate. If they don't offer it, I buy it from Hype or Tom from Hype Keyboards, because I just desperately desire like knowing it works, right? But then there's like ABS, and then there's nylon, and then there's wipe, and then now we have Ultem, and then we have I mean, carbon fiber being cut like readily, or aluminum being cut readily. It's just insane. So like now you get all these boards that were locked, but you know, like maybe you could never get aluminum for a board because they don't make the plates anymore. Well, Tom can cut it for you. That isn't that amazing, right? Like wow, like we, you know, every part of a keyboard is important, but now we really know that, hey, plates play a pivotal role in that. Even beyond, like you could have the same switch and it'll sound different with a different plate. Just look at my hero videos with the different plate materials, and that's why in my opinion, like I just like how they sounded different. But I guess a lot of people really did want to get into the nitty gritty of like just a pure scientific shootout of like keep everything constant, change one variable, and then what changes, right? And you know, I guess that's a scientist to me, wanting to like, you know, keep variables constant and all that jazz. But yeah, plate materials, I loved it. I loved all the boards I've went through. I'm glad I got to give them off to like different members in the community. Sometimes I broke even, or sometimes I've, you know, sold at a loss. But at the end of the day, it's in someone else's hands. I don't think I've ever sold for a profit, unless you count like shipping fees as part of a profit. But I don't think so. But no, yeah, I put in, I got out, and I'm just so happy that I got to experience everything this hobby has to offer. I think I even went to like a meetup. It was pretty small and local, but it was kind of weird, you know, being the one with like the most custom keyboard in there. Like, okay, don't get me wrong, I saw like a bias there, but when I brought my not Kage, it was the Haas hand engineering keyboard, and I had it, you know, anodized and everything, and I brought it in, and I was explaining it like, yeah, I got a flame patina, I got re-anodized. Like, no one knew what that meant. No one cared. And I was like, damn, okay, this is just for me. I didn't know it was just for me, but that was pretty funny to be like, hey, what switches are you into? Like, yeah, I love Akko. I was like, hey, do you like cherries? They're like, cherries? Why would I get, aren't those like sold on like gaming keyboards? And I was like, yeah, they are, they are. Yeah, but anyways, I digress. It's been so lovely, going through the hobby and experiencing all those different boards, building them for other people, consulting on the different keyboards as well. I mean, some people are like, Johnny, I don't know, I'm building it for the first time, I'm so nervous, I don't know what to put in there. And I try my best to give advice, and then they build it and they're like, this is great, I love this, it sounds great. And I think another thing too that I saw was like, a lot of people were scared to go foamless, or some people were so scared to not like put foam in there because they got so much hate for it. I said, dude, like, if you want to do it, just do it, right? It's your board, you paid that money. No one else has a right on how the outcome of it is unless you want them to, right? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting, doing all that. And I guess the last thing, now that I'm looking back on my time in the hobby, is just like, I want to thank everyone. I've made so many friends in the hobby. Some have gone on a greener pastures. They've kind of reached where I am now. They just never recorded a reflections video, right? And some are still there. They're still working in the community. So I guess, off the top of my head, because as you could tell, none of this is scripted. I'd like to thank Roy from CustomKeyboardCo. First and foremost, CustomKeyboardCo. They were my first affiliate or sponsor, whatever you want to call them, really. But without them, you would never get those, sound tests on those different switches. And you wouldn't hear them lubed and filmed. Like, who really cares? Like, do you really think I would go out and lube and film 200 switches? Some of them, hell, I even spring swapped, right? If they were my personal switches. But they were so supportive. They didn't care if I sent them 60 sets. Like, I kid you not, I had like a 20 by 18 box filled to the brim with switches. 20 by 18 by 4. It was just filled to the brim. And I sent it in that, that box was like 12 pounds. They took it, they got it turned over in a month, okay, if not less. And that's just insane to me, because they realize, like, this has to happen. Like, someone has to do it for the community, and we want to support that. And we're also curious, like, no one's ever done a scientific test like this. So yeah, that's been great. I also want to thank Tom from HypeKeyboards for cutting all my plates. So many of my boards, once I realized we could cut PP, I had everything cut in PP. I had everything cut in POM. I would not get a keyboard unless I could get the plate file and cut it. And he allowed those sound tests to happen, and he'd be more than happy to, like, let me try out a new plate material. And he was so kind about it. And truly, like, there's not a lot of people in the world you'll find who cares so much about the hobby, and also has such attention to detail. Tom is that guy, and we are so fortunate that even after the extinction of all the plate cutters in the North America region, he still remains, and he has a monopoly. Like, he doesn't have to have those high QC standards. There's no competition, but he does, because he has that sense of integrity, so yeah, I cherish that for sure. I appreciate Kahlil from KNC Keys. He was a fantastic sponsor, and an affiliate, and just such a genuine guy for the community. I think he is, like, starting to slow down the operation, which is understandable given the climate. But no, like, the entire KNC run was so legendary. And it was so fun to see the different switches come out of it, and just all the fun, really, all the fun ideas he came up with. Flybeck, he's a guy I got to talk to a lot in the tail end of my keyboard journey, and what a designer, man. What a keyboard designer. What a guy. What a genuine person. Like, I know a lot of designers are great people, except for a select few. Yeah, we all, who we're talking about. But no, Fly is an outstanding guy. I will always support his projects until he finds a reason to scam us. Yeah, no, he stands out to me as, like, one of those Like, how have I not talked to him sooner? They're also like people, like, I think I comment a lot on Alceray's. I don't know if it's Alceray or Alceray, but I really loved watching all of his sound tests. He came up with the craziest combinations, and like he would Frankenstein boards. I think like he did the O-ring Frankenstein. I was like, how the hell did you do that? But it sounded amazing, and I was so shook by that. There's Chenyz too. Great builds, so clean, so professional. Keebscape, Japes, dude, what a guy, right? He had such a big vision for what he wanted to do, such high quality. He made sound tests so cool and so professional, but still short, right? Still short. He didn't make it into a giant review. He made it concise for the consumer to know what they wanted. And with professional stick photography and B-roll to keep you entertained compared to me, you know, where you're just staring at the screen while I yap, right? Saying it, not goodbye, but, you know, thinking back, right? So, yeah, I think, you know, there are a lot of people behind the scenes that I won't name just because I don't know if they're comfortable with that. They're not like a public figure. But, you know, all the Discord people I've met, I've talked to, have asked for advice, or maybe I've asked them for advice. It's been great. And you know who you are. I still remember you. No, yeah. So thanks everyone for such a wonderful time in the hobby. If I, you know, release another video, I won't announce it. I don't know when. You know, as I move on to my like next chapter in my life where I'm pursuing a PhD, it's just taken so much time, man. You know, all those times where I'd be looking at like keyboard news, I'm just reading papers where I'm doing experiments and stuff like that. It's quite a journey so far, and it's going to be a long one. So this was so great. I'm really glad I got to experience this before. I'm really just like, you know, knee deep into work. So yeah, I hope all y'all continue to enjoy the hobby. Even if you're done with the hobby, I hope you had a great time with it. I know some people have left the hobby out of like bitterness, but I think the vast majority of us have just, you know, come to peace with it. And yeah, so yeah, take care, y'all, and take it easy, huh? I know not often like you'll see someone reflect, but I think it's such a small community. I don't really care that, you know, my reflection goes public on what I think about the hobby. And usually it's just great things to say. I think the people that cover all the controversies, you know who they are. They talk pretty well about it. Take it with, you know, inform yourself as much as you can about it. But I do really just, when I look back, I think of the good. I don't really think too much of the bad. So yeah, take it easy, y'all. I'll see you next time. Peace.